Hello, Miss Shiva. It's so great to see you. So before we jump in, can you please briefly introduce yourself and your background and some of your responsibilities in your role?
Sure. So my name is Brittany Shiva. I am a middle school counselor. I work at a K-8 school in Irvine. It's called Cadence Park School. And my role is really under three umbrellas. A school counselor works under three umbrellas, which is academic, college career, and social emotional. So I work with students for many different reasons. I always tell kids that when a school counselor comes and maybe takes someone out of class and talks with them, one, they're never in trouble. That is, discipline is not a school counselor's role. But it can be a variety of different things from a schedule change to something like personal with friends or something emotional or something related to college career or fun, exciting after school activities and experiences. And I do all of the above, and that's what I love so much about being a school counselor is because you are an advocate for students and you are for all students. So it's really fun to be able to support students, just the whole child, right? So not only how to cope, how to be best versions of themselves, but also get them ready for high school, get them ready for college and beyond. So I really love my job and love what I get to do.
Yeah, I love what you said about advocating for students. And I know, well, in my personal experience, that sometimes students may be afraid to talk to their counselor because they think they're in trouble. And this actually happened to me as well, because I think it was last year when the counselor at my school reached out to me just to check in. I thought I had done something wrong. So what do you do to try to kind of destigmatize that kind of notion that's associated with counseling and mental health?
I That's something that I try to nip right in the beginning of the school year. So every year I go into all homeroom classes. We have like advisement homeroom. It's a class that students have and it stays with them from like in our case sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. They're in that same class. It's kind of like a family. I always come into homerooms and introduce myself, who I am, what is my job, reasons why I would talk to a student. And then I always have like a little Kahoot. I don't know if you guys still do a Kahoots even in high school or whatever. I feel like it was really big a couple years ago, but always have like all these different scenarios of when you would want to go talk to a counselor. So then they are not only hearing it, but they're doing a little activity about it. And I hope that it sticks with them that seeing a counselor is actually a really good thing. It is not something to be ashamed of. Um, so I try to do that in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's great. And then so in your experience, what are some specific mental health challenges that you observe students struggling with that sometimes they don't necessarily openly discuss?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one every year is anxiety. Being super anxious about a variety of different things that they cannot control, things related to social. So maybe there's stuff going on in a friend group, and certainly a lot about academics, like what they need to be focusing on, feeling overwhelmed with workload, being nervous about what a test is going to look like, just really things outside of their control. That is consistent year after year. I think during COVID, I saw a lot of honestly like self-harm and suicidal ideation, things like that. People really at a low point. And then it comes in waves and a lot of uh sexual orientation, gender orientation, and trying to figure it out, like talking about what does it mean to be feminine, what does it mean to be masculine, what do pronouns mean to me, what pronouns do I identify with, all of that stuff. So it's kind of just a sounding board for, students who are questioning things about themselves and wanting to know more about themselves on that deeper level.
Yeah, so since we all know, during this challenging time for middle schoolers, it's often a time when they're still trying to develop and get a better sense of their own identity. So what do you usually do with your students to try to help them guide them along that journey?
Yeah, I always say, and it's my belief that counseling, I'm not necessarily guiding, I'm more of like a passenger, and they are really steering the ship. They are the ones who are guiding the conversation in whichever way that they want to go. And I feel like I listen and I reflect back. Oh, so I'm hearing that, and whatever it is that they say. And I always say things like, I'm wondering if you've thought about, what that means to you, or what would happen if, in certain situations, like I wonder what would happen if you talk to that friend. I'm not saying, hey, you should go talk to this friend, but they are kind of guiding themselves. So I'm saying, what would happen if you did? Well, what would happen if you didn't? And then they kind of put things together and really solve their own problems. And I think that's the beautiful part about counseling is that I'm not trying to solve anyone's problem. And my students, our students, have that ability themselves. And it's just someone who's helping bring it out of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense about how your role is like trying to empower the students. Yeah.
100%.
So are there like specific like techniques you use like mindfulness in your day-to-day life?
Personally, yes, I would say you were mentioning earlier that, the purpose of your app was to encourage and like remind people about mindfulness and to help them practice it. It's so awful, and I hate to say it, but counselors, we often preach mindfulness, mindfulness, but sometimes in my own daily life, I find it challenging. I have all these tools that I can use, and I don't think I use them often. And, as we started this Zoom call, it was just boom, like I'm going from meeting to event. And I find it very challenging to take a step back sometimes and take a breath if I need to when I have those skills. I just don't use them. And here I am telling students, to take a step back, to breathe, to distance yourself from the situation so you could see it more clearly. But it is challenging, and I feel like I only give myself the opportunity when something is done and over, which I know is not necessarily the best way to go about it, but it almost feels like survival mode sometimes, and it helps me empathize with students who probably feel the same way too.
Yeah, as a high schooler, like I can definitely see that a lot of times I'm also going through survival mode, and sometimes we just need to take some time in between like whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And like you said, a big challenge is trying to keep students engaged in mindfulness because a lot of times they don't find that to be engaging. And like you said, it could be even challenging for adults.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas for like ways that we can keep the students engaged?
Yeah. I do, and what we try to do, and we've adopted this as a district in IUSD, is I don't know if you've ever heard of Calm Classroom. So, Calm Classroom is very short. They tend to be 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes it's a meditation, but sometimes it's just like a fun activity where they're doing something like tactile. Maybe it's finger tapping. They have a bunch of different things that students are able to do, and teachers kind of pick and choose from like a menu of options. And it often happens when we're a K-8, so we also have elementary school here. But sometimes, like when kids get back from recess, when they're overstimulated, it's a grounding exercise to signify that, we're back in the classroom. And it's a very quick mindfulness practice for 3 to 5 minutes. And that has been really, really helpful. I think it works a lot with our elementary school. Middle school, I don't know if we've been doing it like with fidelity or, as frequently as we can, but that is the whole idea is that you're not necessarily like use it when you need it. It's always have it embedded in your routine so that it's not like, oh man, I feel overwhelmed and I'm going to use it because I need it. It's like it becomes a part of your habit because it's scheduled into your day, which I think is what I need, like on my own personal, like day to day. I have a calendar that I put all of my meetings in and all the things that I need to do. And I think that mindfulness should be something as simple as I'm scheduling myself 5 minutes that I can do something.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so like I think that these kind of programs are great for while the student is in school, but sometimes maybe after school they won't be reminded as often to practice mindfulness. So do you think like an app that will try to help them practice mindfulness like on their own time would be beneficial?
100%. Yeah, I think anything that's helping to remind you is certainly beneficial. I think anything that you can do to encourage it is useful. You just hope that, I don't sometimes if I set reminders on my phone, I've gotten to the point where like they build up. So then they become less useful for me because like I've almost trained my brain to not care about the reminders. So I feel like that's one piece of it is having the reminder. And the other piece of it is like your own motivation and desire to follow through with it.
Yeah, I think that that will play a lot into the role of like designing the app so that,
Right.
they not only are they reminded, but they also have like motivation and reward.
Yeah.
That's why,
Yeah.
yeah. So in my own app, that's why I developed like this virtual pet feature. Uh,
Oh,
so
like
that
little Tamagotchi,
what is that?
like a little Tamagotchi sort of thing.
So they can like check in with their pet daily and feed them and to earn like
That's
reward.
really
Like there's this
cool.
currency system. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love that. And I think that immediate reward is so important too of you feel motivated and you know that it's not going to take much time. It's like a check-in with yourself, like you can do it quickly and then you reap an automatic reward. And I feel like that's what drives behavior change, right? It's like getting that immediacy of the reward right away.
How do you think digital interventions like apps can play a broader role in like mental health support?
Yeah, I think that they can play a major role. I think we are definitely headed towards everything is so digitized, everything is on your phone. Your phone is kind of everything. And I think this was especially true during COVID times. And, the Calm app was free for however long and all of that stuff. And I think being able to have it at your fingertips all the time is so incredible. And I think it's very helpful. I think that, again, what's hard is that sometimes there's even these competing thoughts of, well, in order to be present, I need to actually be away from my phone. I need to be like away from screens, and I think there's truth in that too. So I think it's finding really striking that balance of having a resource that is readily available and that you can use, and then also being able to put it away and have peace without a screen too, you know.
Thank you so much for your time today.